Welcome to Connected Caroline. I am thrilled to have one of my favorite people in the world on the show today. Her name is Lori Schwartz, and she is an experiential marketing executive, host, curator, technology catalyst, founder, and CEO. Welcome to the show, Lori.
It's great to be here.
You know what I like the most, which is what attracted me to you years and years ago when I first met you, was like, don't pigeonhole me.
Yeah.
Lots of things. I have lots to contribute, and I'm going to contribute it. And you have over the years, for sure. Most definitely.
Yeah, it's funny because I've gone through waves with how to describe myself. And the truth is that all the different parts and pieces of those titles spill into each other. And, you know, in terms of LinkedIn, or even when you're trying to communicate your value prop, it is always best to be simpler and more specific. But I have just decided I'm not going to try anymore because, you know, I'm every woman.
I can relate. I have a hard time doing that too. It's like, well, I do, you know, we, especially with our expertise at this stage of the game, have done a lot of things that just can't be pigeonholed. And we are very versatile. I love that word. You're very versatile. You do lots of really groundbreaking things in tech, and have really been a leader in women in tech. And that's how we met, and like sort of overlapping the entertainment industry. Will you tell us what you're doing lately, and you know how things have been for you professionally over the last year and a half?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the theme for the last year and a half will be pandemic and lockdown and its impact on what I was doing. But over the years, you know, I left a big agency job about 8 years ago as sort of their innovations specialist, and I helped launch this technology lab. And after that, I started getting asked to do a lot of industry work because part of my job at that time was giving clients, explaining new technology to clients. And so I started doing a lot of curating at large trade shows and public speaking, moderating and hosting, and really helping to figure out what the content of those shows was. And so my clients, you know, started turning into big trade shows. A lot of what I do at these shows, and what I've been doing really my whole professional life, is helping connect these disparate ecosystems so that they understand the business opportunities with each other. So it's taking brands and storytellers and media and also tech, and you know, putting them all together to create magic. And so that has really for the last few years manifested as work at big shows or work at industry events. And that's the experiential marketer part, which is that I'm really involved in creating experiences at these events. And obviously during the last year and a half where we haven't been live, a lot of that turned into virtual. And so I've been producing panels and content and different experiences through virtual platforms for my clients.
That's a great segue actually into the VR proposition now for brands, and also just in terms of B2B, the trade show conference like circuit. Where do you see it going?
I mean, I think there are a lot of different paths, right? One is that that live matters. Getting back to live really matters, because what we've heard over and over again in the last year is that live is where sales happen, but virtual is where education happens. And also you can open up your exposure in virtual. So what a lot of, at least the sponsors and exhibitors that I have spoken to really like what investing in virtual has done to their reach. But they're able to really, you know, tell their value prop to a much wider, more global audience. The challenge is, you know, in going down the funnel. And going down the funnel, they've all said, is in person. That's where the sales happen. So you want a little bit of, you want the virtual for reach and education, and you want the live. And right now, while we're in this new layer of the pandemic, and we're dealing with vaccine passports and instant testing and all these different things, there are other options to facilitate both that live engagement and that virtual component, and that is in immersive experiences. So whether that immersive experience happens on a web browser where we're in a immersive environment, but you're using your keys and you're watching it in a 2D environment, or whether you're putting on your headset, which I conveniently for this phone call pulled next to me, your Oculus.
I love props.
Yeah, whether you go inside your Oculus headset and you're in a social VR platform, which many say is the future of work, is a lot of these platforms where global businesses have been meeting for the last year, and you're literally sitting next to, in VR, your client who's in another country, and it sounds like you're talking to them, you know, literally next to you, and it's a very visceral experience. It's very much like you are there. When you take the headset off, there's a few moments you're like, your brain goes, where am I now? But a lot of things are happening in those environments because when we can't be around each other, and we are social creatures, social VR and, you know, immersive virtual work platforms are really the future. And I think it's really important for medical and all enterprise clients that are dealing with the creation of product, because you're in an environment that is basically created by leveraging 3D products and 3D items. And what a lot of these social VR platforms allow you to do is manipulate objects inside of those environments. So if you're already dealing with, you know, CADs or Photoshop files or whatever it is in creating a new product, you can just pull them into this environment and you're literally manipulating them as your avatar in these environments. So I think it's really game changing for product development and for medical and for auto development and things that have something you're creating and manipulating. But I also think it's really fun for storytellers too. I've been working with a couple of folks that are doing live immersive virtual theater, which is a combination of interactive theater, which, you know, if you go to New York or London or any of the bigger cities, you have things like Sleep No More and even Tony and Tina's Wedding, where the audience is part of the storytelling, where you're walking around and you're like, you know, almost like the Greek chorus in these things. So now this is happening in VR, where you can put on your headset, buy a ticket, and become part of a show. And you actually go, and it's part like, what do you call it when you're trying to break out of those rooms?
The escape rooms.
Yeah, it's part escape room, it's part theater, it's part game, it's all of these things together, and it's written and scripted, but it's branching narrative. So you can make a decision as a character in a virtual environment and be taken down a different path than someone else in the same environment, because the writers and producers have created branching narratives for you to actually participate. So that's kind of advanced stuff, but that's happened in the last year or two. It's really exciting. It's almost like if you've heard of location-based entertainment, where you go to a place like Dreamscape or The Void, and you go into a room with your friends, and then there's physicalization of the storytelling, like there's planks and whatever, and you put on your VR headset and those planks become part of the story, so that you're actually feeling the railing of something. And in VR, it looks like a railing, but if you took off your headset, it's just a pipe, you know, so there's location-based, where you go to a place, you put on headsets with other people, and you're having this experience, or you can do it in these live theatrical social VR apps where you're not leaving your house. So there's just a lot of interesting things happening in the virtualization of the workforce and of entertainment that I think the pandemic has lit up. I don't think it replaces live, but I think it will move along you know, in development, because we can't quite be live, but everyone I know wants to be around each other right now. So we just have to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Well, just have to, you know, one day at a time.
Yeah, it really, yeah, it does. You're right. It's literally
changes every day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. So what other things are you into besides the VR and tech? Like, tell us about your Storytech. Are you still doing Tech Cat?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting from a brand perspective, what to do when you kind of have multiple brands that you're working with, especially as an entrepreneur. So for a long time, I messaged under the Tech Cat brand, which was me as a speaker. And it stood for Technology Catalyst, which is, again, on my LinkedIn profile, but also what I am, which is someone that evangelizes tech and helps light up opportunities. And so I built a whole brand around that. I have a podcast. I do different things under that as me as that character. And then I have Storytech, which is the experiential marketing company where I get hired and I hire people to do these events. The two brands are really, the same thing. It's all creating experiences. Sometimes I am the talent and sometimes I'm the producer hiring talent, whatever. And I have found over the years that it's challenging to be developing two brands at once when really it's all under my umbrella. And so I'm kind of looking at that now. And I think it's the same questions that everyone's asking when they're building a new business or launching a consumer brand is what will resonate and how do I do this and what's stronger? How do I get the message out? And so right now I'm kind of looking at, should I still have the Tech Cat brand? Am I just Storytech and everything should be under that? And so I'm playing with things. I keep multiple Instagram accounts and multiple Twitter accounts, and they're different voices that speak to different things. But I've got to say, it's exhausting managing all of those, and I have social media people that help me in all of that. But I'm definitely looking at, maybe I should combine all of this stuff. But they're all under this same idea that, technology is nothing to be afraid of. It's actually very exciting what's happening. And that if we use storytelling to help us all understand tech, then I think a lot of people will be less terrified and sort of stuck in some, what some people may say, sort of Luddite mode about it, and really embrace all the opportunities and also be more educated consumers and push back on both the tech companies and the government when they are not looking out for your best interests. And I think that happens a lot when it comes to bringing a connected device into your house. And a lot of companies do not tell you to change your password. They just give you a default password and everyone just uses that. And that's how hackers have a party, right? If everyone has the same password for that same connected device in their homes, how easy is that to get into, right? And so, you have to get accustomed to being an educated consumer and taking the extra time to read the manual. I am like a huge manual geek. I mean, I like reading the manual. Do I know how to do everything? Do I want to do it all? No, but I know about it. It's the same thing when I hire a plumber. I go onto YouTube, I watch the YouTube video, but I hire someone who's going to do it fast and well, right? But I know
how to do it.
I know what they're doing. And I also, want to be an educated consumer and say to our government, okay, you need to regulate this. You need to put more pressure on Mark Zuckerberg. You need to put more pressure on Tim Cook. But I love Tim Cook's products. And I'm a big, fan of all those products and I'm using them, but put more pressure because this is where they're not playing so well. And put more pressure on Mark Zuckerberg because this is where he's not playing so well or the company isn't. So we have to be educated consumers and our government needs to also play a role that helps grow business and create opportunity, but also protect us. So it's a fine balance. It's really a trifecta of the tech company, the government, and us all working together to light up all this great tech and these great opportunities, but also, look at us, have ethics in mind, pay attention to the impact this has on our children, and keep all of this moving forward. So it's a lot, but it can, if each of us plays our role and don't stick your head in the ground, but be an active consumer.
So are you an activist and or lobbyist on behalf of a tech company with the government? In other words, what would you just said, everybody needs to do their role.
Yeah.
Have you created a situation where people do come together and they're talking to each other and trying to make this work out?
I have not. I do it in ways like this. And I have some content coming out soon called What's Your Tech Story that is all about these kinds of ideas. And I talk about it a lot on shows like yours, but you know, I haven't ever operationalized that, and that's a great idea. I think any chance I get, I try and make people understand or help them understand by telling stories about tech, like how do I use it? You know, and I am a very specific demographic, right? I'm a single mom, a woman of a certain age. And I'm getting used to saying it out loud, but I'm not ready to on camera. But
you just did.
yeah, exactly. And I'm
More or less.
yeah, I'm used to, you know, telling stories about tech to make people understand it in a way that's easy to digest, and also, frankly, fun. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be overwhelming or intimidating. I mean, I grew up with a mom who I think it was in the 90s when Windows first came out, and I may be getting the dates wrong, but I remember her sitting there, and this was a woman in her, you know, late 70s, early 80s, who was just got a PC to use her sewing machine to make like fun characters on towels and things.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. I was just out of college or whatever it was. My parents were a lot older than my friends' parents, and she would just click on stuff. She wasn't afraid. She would just like load up a new app and click on it and play around. And I have so many friends that are afraid to, you know, bring a device in their house or click on anything or try something, you know, there's a lot of fear. And it's because we have for too long told the story about Arnold Schwarzenegger coming to our door to kill us as a big killer robot, right? And
right.
that story is not really reflective of the benefits of the tech. And so the challenge now is that we have to tell a different story. But that story really, like, they did such a great job with those Terminator movies and all the other negative utopias about tech, because, and it's such an easy sci-fi trope to blame the end of the world on tech. But the truth is, it's human beings who built the tech, and we can manage it. We can be smarter about it. We can be more responsible. So yes, I think you're right. I think I should, you know, put something together there. And anyone out here who's watching this, you know, please message out to me if you're interested too. It's like, oh yeah, you know, another thing to jump on, but it's really important.
It is, and nobody better to do it than you. Yeah, all of Lori's contact information, of course, be in the description below. So let's talk about being a mompreneur and single mom, and how is that, you know, influence how you do your work?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm always looking for solutions to get through our day and our week. And I tend to lean on tech for that. So for instance, good friends of mine turned me on to this thing called Meet Circle or Circle app. And they're not a client or anything, but it's just a little device you attach to your router, and it comes with an app, and I manage her screen time. And so her iPad and her, you know, little MacBook and anything new that we get her are all on there. And I limit how long she's on certain games. And at 8 p.m. at night, the Wi-Fi gets cut off on those devices, and she checks in her iPad and her computer into me at night. So there are things like that. So I'm always looking for solutions, because I inherently look at tech as problem solving and also life enhancing. I mean, I have so many apps that I'm using right now every day that I'm highly dependent on, that are businesses that were just crafted in the last year. You know,
cool.
And they've taken over, you know, my day. So I'm using that Circle app I told you about. I'm using the LG app, and I have a few others that were just disrupted other businesses and have now taken place. And it's all about, how do I get through my life? And also, frankly, this stuff is fun. It's fun. It really is. It gives me joy when I go, Alexa, shut off all the lights. I mean, I don't want any lights to go out now, but but it's very convenient. And I have to say, even spiritually, like, my kid loves at night to go, Alexa, good night, because it locks the doors and it turns out the lights. And for her, as an 11-year-old little girl, she feels secure Like it
Right.
takes away she used to have like a little sleep anxiety. It takes it away when she says that. And then she tells it to play Hamilton. Don't ask me why, but she sleeps to Hamilton soundtrack. She tells it to play
That
Hamilton.
my son went through that at about the same age.
I think
Yeah.
I think we're almost over it, thank God,
Yeah.
because now I cannot stand it, and it's such a piece of genius. But so all these things are about making your life easier and better and enjoying yourself, so that I get to have that quality time with her. So I'm not stressing about how to get through the day. Now, look, are there times when I'm like, shut up, I'm on a Zoom,
Yeah.
and please eat your breakfast, I've got to get on a call, whatever. There's no separation of church and state in this house. Like I'm working or I'm being a mom, and it blends, and so, and sometimes it's awkward. And I think the good thing about the last 2 years is that everyone's accepted and embraced that awkwardness. So for those of us, and this too, Caroline, for those of us that have always worked at home, at least for the last 8 years, and have been on Zoom for the last 4 years, I had this all the time. And I had times when she was home and she interrupted me, and it was awkward and weird because it wasn't there was no cultural understanding. Now, at least everyone's been through that. So that baby rolling into the British reporter's office now is a cliche, but when that first came out, it was shocking and hysterical. And now I'm kind of glad that the kimono has been open there, because that was my life anyway, So I embrace all of the opportunities. I think COVID was a great extra year I got with her. Was it stressful and weird? Yes, but she knows how to use the entire Google suite of apps now. She knows how to, like,
there was many positives around things like that. And what you're saying, my kids now know what I do. Like they see you at work, because it's just this like mystery,
Yes.
Mom, especially because we're both entrepreneurs and we're both, have our fingers in many pies. So they really could see me at work, not, it figuratively speaking, and actually, and really in actuality. And so like, it was great. We all got in a rhythm, and I wouldn't say it's great, but there was a definite benefit. There was many benefits, but that was definitely a benefit for sure.
Yeah. And I will say, I am excited about her. She starts school next week, and I'm excited about it for her, because when she went back for those last 2 months of the previous year, she was so happy, because they need that social interaction. And I was happy too, because it just took away a little stress, but, for the rest of our lives, we'll have had this year to talk about, and she'll be telling her kids about it.
I have a question for you. What do you think of the positioning, the fractional, like in terms of a brand, a fractional CMO, fractional? Are you hip to all, that trend?
I mean, I'm hip to fractional, buying fractional memberships to flying, but
so there's a trend that's fractional CMO, fractional CTO, which a lot of entrepreneurs and consultants are doing anyway, right? That you get hired, you do the strategy, you give, this, document with all the information, build the case, and then whether or not they hire you or have people in their in-house implement what you've done. And a lot of us do that anyway, but so there's a big trend to like reposition brand wise for consultants to a fractional something. And I was just curious about your opinion on that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so it's more consistent, like with the trending.
My top half. I haven't heard that yet, but I think that's an exciting way to figure out like what your value prop is.
Because there's obviously there's like a formula to what you're presenting, and it's a lot of what consultants already do that.
Well, I would love to hear more about that, because I think that will, anything that helps us monetize our time I think is huge, because that is a challenge. It's a really big challenge for me. I do a lot of industry work, some of which I am compensated for, and some of which is just part of the gig, you know. And as I get older, I definitely want less and less non-billable time, right? I want more and more billable time, because I'm at that point where my ability to deliver is much faster and more qualified. And so I want to be compensated for that. And I think that's true of a lot of folks as we get more experience. And as we move further away from maybe staff jobs, because it's potentially true that we're priced out of full-time jobs,
right,
or on staff, if anyone stays on staff at all in the future. But
right, that's a whole question mark there as well. You know?
But I think that's a really smart way to try and understand how do we monetize our time.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll definitely get into that another time. So tell everybody what your podcast is, where they can find you. Give the info.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can always find out about my my experiential marketing company called Storytech, and we're at story-tech.com. And we're helping out all sorts of trade shows and events and associations, and do a lot of different things to support connecting the players in that environment, the sponsors, the exhibitors, and the attendees. And then the Tech Cat show is my podcast, which I've been doing on and off for the last 4 years, and a ton of great content online. If you go onto Apple or any of the podcast channels, the Tech Cat show. And there you will hear me interviewing a ton of different media and tech executives who are all really breaking ground and telling their tech story in a way that's digestible and exciting. And then I'm tweeting and Instagramming and doing whatever I can to share stuff. So if you are on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, you can find the Tech Cat Girl, and sharing a lot of just really great new announcements daily on wonderful things happening in technology.
Oh, I follow you. I mean, you're my go-to to like find out what's new and interesting and usable.
It's fun. It's fun. It's if you take everything in, and it doesn't all have to be relevant to you, but what starts to happen is you start to see the bigger picture when you know a little bit about a lot. And I think that's always been my approach.
I love that. And I think that's a really good point, is that you don't have to be a master of all of this. It's really about having a little bit of knowledge about, like you just said, a lot of things, and then you really see it like it's real. This is happening.
Ideas come from everywhere, and you can get a really great idea for your business by looking at case studies from other categories, and that is just the truth, you know.
Yeah, I love that. So cool. So unless you have anything else you want to talk about, I have my last question.
Oh, go for it.
Which is, because I was thinking about this the other day, about like favorite things, and what is your one favorite thing that you just can't not have in the house, or you just love right now?
I have a problem.
Okay. But that's old school.
I know, but they're all over the house, and it's because I really love how crispy and fresh these are, and it gets me to drink water. And I've tried a lot of different brands. This is my favorite. This is the right amount. It's just perfect. Now, is it the best on the environment? No. I did try the kind. Yeah. I'm obsessed. It just is my little treat. So
all right. Yeah. So that's my treat too. So very cool. So Perrier in the can.
But in the very bad for our environment can.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on that. Yeah. Anyway, Lori Schwartz, it's just been a pleasure to talk to you today. And I thank you for taking the time to be on Connected Caroline. And I hope to talk to you again.
Well, I can't imagine who wouldn't want to talk to Connected Caroline. So it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you all for watching and listening. And this is Caroline with Connected Caroline. Make it a giving day. Bye-bye.